Good morning and welcome to the Paul Green Comedy PaulCast. It is May 16th, 2024. This is episode 169 of the Paul Green Comedy PaulCast, a podcast by a dreamer for dreamers, stand-up comedian and actor Paul Green here, documenting my journey. So obviously, I am not filming video for today's edition. However, I'm not sharing video for a very unique, for a bit of a unique reason. And, so had a bit of a interesting incident happen last night, which led to unforeseen circumstances and then ultimately led to me not going back home and staying over at a friend's house. So, what had happened was a good buddy of mine who I've talked about a lot on the podcast, actually. He is an owner of a local comedy club and has become, that club has sort of become my home club. And I perform there regularly. It's a great club. Great audiences. It's been a tremendous blessing in my development as a comedian and as a performer. So, I have a little bit of technical acumen as a really kind of a back-end software automation guy. And so my friend who's the owner of this club asked if I would come over to his place and help him with some website stuff, which I was happy to do. So, oh dear. So anyway, I'm in the back end of his website, and I see there's a bunch of plugins that haven't been updated in a long time, and he starts telling me about how the host and server of his website he doesn't have access to, and there's a whole backstory. I don't want to get too much into those details. So I say, well, let's see if we can isolate which one of these plugins is crashing the site and what the errors are and if we can fix it. But I'm going to back up your site real quick with this plugin. So I install this plugin. The plugin downloads this big zip file that is the backup of the website. And then I start updating the plugins. And then, of course, one of the plugins crashes the website, but it was a pretty minor crash. But I'm like, okay, well, let's see what we can do with this. And then after a little bit, it just kind of became a little too much. It was just too much. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's just kind of call it quits for now, and let's restore the website. So I go into the plugin, I upload this gigantic zip file, which is supposed to restore the website, and instead of restoring the website, it crashes the website even harder, to the point to where I cannot even log in. It's like the website is just lost in cyberspace. It doesn't even exist anymore. And this was not good. So, of course, I'm feeling like really embarrassed because I'm supposed to be somewhat smart, and now I have made things worse. So I'm sort of in panic mode, and I just start kind of frantically thinking of any way that I can possibly get this website repaired and restored, since the thing that I had downloaded that was supposed to do that actually made it even worse. And the problem is, I don't actually have access to his web server because for this myriad of reasons, which I don't want to go in, which means I can't actually get into like the roots of the website to repair this thing. And so it left me in this completely helpless situation. So it's kind of getting a little late, but I can't just leave this situation as is because I totally have crashed this website. and he's got shows the next night, and people are going to be going to the website and looking to get tickets and looking to RSVP. So first of all, not only do I got egg on my face, I'm pretty anxious, and I'm trying to just keep a cool demeanor, being like, all right, what do I need to do here? What do I need to do? Trying to not lose my cool. So I log into my Upwork account, and I post a job, and it's this totally SOS emergency, have a website emergency. My website is crashed. I don't have access to the cPanel. I don't know how I can possibly recover this because I can't get into anything. I have no way to access it because the WordPress login is down, the whole site is crashed, and I don't have access to the hosting. The only thing I did have access to was where the domain was purchased, but that's not actually where the website was hosted. So it's a nightmare. It's a complete mess. We tried to get a hold of the guy who set up his website, but he wasn't answering and we weren't getting any response from him. So anyway, I post this whole SOS situation on Upwork and end up connecting with a guy who lives in Pakistan who has a game plan. And so we start communicating with him. I have to get him that gigantic zip file, but he's very confident that he'll be able to restore this site. So now it's getting pretty late, and I'm not really comfortable leaving with this website crashed. So instead, I decided just to stay the night. So here I am. I am staying the night on a pull-out couch of my good friend and owner of my sort of hometown comedy club, whose website I completely demolished a couple of hours ago, and I am now hoping that a random Pakistani WordPress expert will be able to restore it, which he does seem very confident that he will be able to. And not only is he confident that he will be able to restore it, he also said that we will be able to switch the servers so that we are no longer beholden to this hosting company that we don't have access to, and that we can get everything under GoDaddy's roof, which will just be better for everybody. So what have I learned through all of this? And there's a handful of things going through my mind, which I'm just trying to unpack myself, but the first thing is just how willing I was to sort of move forward with trying to, make these updates. And there is something in me that really doesn't like it when something, especially in technology, is just not operating the way that it is meant to be operating, and that certain things are just blocking progress, and that it really shouldn't be this way. So in this scenario, when my buddy was explaining to me what was going on with the website and how he can't get access, and the guy who built it for him set up hosting with this company, but isn't able to give him access, or hadn't given him access, and it seemed like maybe that relationship was in an interesting place. And then the WordPress website was drastically outdated because all of these plugins couldn't be updated because they kept crashing the website. And so there's just like these multiple elements that are just putting this website in a state of constant suboptimal situation with multiple setbacks. Any one of these setbacks, which in a crisis could prove very detrimental. And the ironic thing is, we're now in the crisis. And so there was a part of me that was and is very embarrassed that I came in hopefully to make things better, and then I ended up crashing everything. But there was another side of this that goes, well, because of this, the result is we're going to end up in a much better situation. And had I not come in and intervene and kind of effed things up, then the status quo would have just continued on until maybe a catastrophe manifested itself at a very inopportune time because the website wasn't updated and, we didn't have full access to his website, which is ludicrous that he wasn't able to even access his own cPanel. That just didn't make any sense. So it got me to thinking of this idea that I think as human beings, we are so prone to just wanting to get things to a certain level of status quo and to get to a certain level of comfort and a certain level of familiarity, to where any sort of advancement beyond that requires some risk, and in some cases requires actually sort of breaking down and destroying what was already there, which was also already working more or less. Like, his website was working just fine. So, I was thinking about that element of things, and also was thinking about how that sort of plays out in my artistic pursuit as a comedian. And I have been in a situation to where I have really been looking at improving my comedy material and getting a lot more professional, a lot more clear, a lot more branded, and a lot more consistent with my comedic writing. Whereas before, I had a tendency to just sort of get enough material that was funny enough that I could put it on stage, and then I would just kind of leave it alone and be like, well, I'm doing okay with this material. And about a month and a half ago, I just went, that ain't cutting it for me anymore. I want to really try to take things to the next level and get things better. But in order to do that, I sort of had to completely crash for a while, let go of all my old material, stop doing it, and start doing a bunch of new material, which was uncomfortable and is requiring effort and risk and discomfort of not knowing if the new jokes that I'm writing are going to work. Like, it's a ton of work, and it would have been a lot easier for me just to kind of keep things as they were. And so I've just been thinking that as sort of analogy of what happened, to where things were fine the way they were. Things were working. But me coming in and trying to improve things and update things and get things running more optimally in the short term actually caused everything to get worse for the time being. But the hope is that on the other end of that, we'll be in a much better position. Not only with this website, obviously I'm jumping back and forth between analogy and real life here. Well, it's both real life, but the analogy of this website crashing and the analogy of me improving as a stand-up comedian. And I just think that is part of growth, and that is part of improvement, is getting to those spaces to where, cool, this is working okay and I'm content with it. However, for things to get better may require a period of things being much worse. and I've been experiencing that with my comedy too. It's, stepping in front of crowds and not being as confident because I'm doing jokes that are brand new and I don't really have them fleshed out yet. And I don't know how the audience is going to respond. And so maybe that particular audience doesn't get as good as a show as when I was doing the material that was worked out and that I was confident in, but ultimately the end result is there are going to be a lot more audiences in the future who are going to get a far superior show than what I was doing when I was content with the material that I was performing with. So that is what I have been thinking about as I am laying here in a pull-out couch in my buddy's office waiting to hear back from our Upwork buddy, who hopefully is going to be able to pull off a miracle here and get this site restored soon. And once he does, I want to be awake, even though it's getting pretty late. I am probably not really going to be able to sleep until this is resolved, as I am one who takes full responsibility and accountability when I mess something up, and take ownership of that, because that's all I can do once, a mistake has been made. And so here I am doing my podcast from a couch bed. So I'll tell you, everybody, as you move forward toward your dream, just maybe keep in mind that there's going to probably come a point in time, and maybe many points in time, where sort of making things worse for a little bit is going to be required and necessary to ultimately land in a better place down the road. Or at least I sure hope that's the case, that this website isn't lost forever. I don't think it is. But yeah, everybody, sometimes, it's the old, you got to take a few steps back before you can take 3 steps forward, or whatever that saying is. And I'll tell you, I am finding that is definitely the case. And sometimes contentment can really be an enemy of greatness, and doing okay can be an enemy of doing amazing. And doing okay and being content is really, really good, because it would be easy to look at, other people in situations that are far more dire and go, well, I'm not in as bad as a situation as that other person, so I should just be grateful with this level of contentment. And there's definitely some truth to that in terms of being grateful and happy with where you're at. But I'm just talking strictly from a standpoint of growing as an artist and as a performer, and understanding that part of that growth may include crashing a website or two. So everybody out there, if you are in a situation where you've actually had to crash a few websites, and you're kind of dealing with the anxiety and the stress of being in a situation to where things were working and you were content, and now things are not working and you're not even content. Now you're in a state of having to work and repair and improve. I would say, hey, I think that's a good spot to be in, because all that means is that you are en route for being in an even better situation than when you had started out, or when you had, or when you were in a situation where you were content with your situation. So keep striving, everybody. Keep going for those dreams. I love you all so much. I will check in with you tomorrow, and hopefully when I check in, I will be able to report that we have a fully functioning website with updated plugins and access to our host. At least that is the energy I'm putting out to the universe, and we will see how it goes. All right, everybody. I will talk to you tomorrow.